Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. We got a few new Q posts, and I'm going to read them. I'm going to read them so freaking hard. Are you ready? Here we go. If you don't want to hear this and you want to skip straight to my analysis, just click on the timestamp below and amazing things will happen to you. All right, 41 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. post 1305. No name out now. And then we have a link. We love good singers. Q. 51 minutes after the hour of 10 a.m. post 1306. Define the terms of the Iran nuclear deal. Does the agreement define and confine cease and desist pro to the Republic of Iran? What if Iran created a classified satellite nuclear facility in northern Syria? What if the program never ceased? What other bad actors are possibly involved? Did the U.S. know? Where did the cash payments go? How many planes delivered? Did all planes land in the same location? Where did the uranium-1 material end up? Is this material traceable? Yes. Define cover. What if uranium-1 material ended up in Syria? What would be the primary purpose? Sum of all fears. In the movie, where did the material come from? What country? What would happen if Russia or another foreign state supplied uranium to Iran or Syria? War. What does uranium-1 provide? Define cover. Why did we strike Syria? Why did we really strike Syria? Define cover. Patriots can control. Q. 38 minutes past the hour of 12. 1307. Post 1307. Knowing what you know now. Regarding Israel, disclosure moments ago. Authentic. Why is Secretary of State there? Why is the EU/others pressing to remain in the deal? Think logically. France and Germany came to the White House for the sole purpose of pressing POTUS to remain in the deal. 5% shared. POTUS declassify Syria, Iran plus uranium-1 connection. Where does EU fit in? Sick. Q. Okay, let's take you back to the first post, 41 minutes after the hour of 9 a.m. post 1305. No name out now. And then we have this Twitter link. We love good singers. Q. Okay, well, those of you who know, and those of you who don't, No Name is our senator from Arizona. Okay, and he is out. He's not going to return. He's already said that he's not running again. He's got some problems. He's got some problems with his head. So feel better, shipmate. We hope you come back soon. We miss you. But for now, looks like No Name is out. Incidentally, his buddy, Lindsey Graham, this is the link that it takes you to. His buddy, Lindsey Graham, he's from South Carolina. He's changing his tune all of a sudden. He says, James Comey, I don't trust him. And I think he was part of an effort at the FBI to give Clinton a pass. The way they conducted the investigation was a joke. The thumb was on the scale. The head investigator by the FBI hated Trump like Clinton. Well, he's singing his tune all differently all of a sudden. And here you see a little video. I'm not going to play it for you. He's talking to Maria Bartiromo. And you'll even watch her. She's shaking her head too. She doesn't get it. We don't get it. He's singing a different tune, but Q says we love good singers. So I guess as long as he likes it. So, No Name out. Lindsey Graham singing. Let's move on for now. 51 minutes past the hour of 10 a.m. post 1306. Define the terms of the Iran nuclear deal. Okay, let's start off by just doing that. I'm going to take you over to the Telegraph here. Here's a summary of it. Iran will sacrifice 2/3 of its ability to enrich uranium, the vital process that could be used to make the core of a nuclear bomb. All but 6,000 of Iran's 19,500 centrifuges will be placed in storage, monitored by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. Iran will export all but 300 kilograms of its entire stockpile of 8 tons of low-enriched uranium. The combined effect of these measures will be to place Iran about 12 months away from having enough weapons-grade uranium for one nuclear bomb, compared with its current breakout time of 3 or 4 months. The Fordow enrichment plant, which was built in secret inside a hollowed-out mountain, will be converted into a research center. Almost 2/3 of the centrifuges in Fordow will be removed, and the remaining 1,000 will not be used to enrich uranium. Iran's heavy water plant at Iraq will be redesigned and rebuilt to make it impossible to produce weapons-grade plutonium. Iran will implement the Additional Protocol Safeguards Agreement, giving IAEA inspectors more power to monitor its nuclear plants and other facilities. Once the IAEA has confirmed that Iran has taken these steps, America and its allies will lift all nuclear-related economic sanctions, including oil embargoes and financial restrictions. This could release over $100 billion of frozen Iranian assets. America and its allies will also recognize Iran's right to enrich enriched uranium for peaceful purposes, as guaranteed by the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Iran will remain subject to a UN arms embargo for 5 years. Restrictions will stay on its ballistic missile program for another 8. Okay, so that's roughly the terms of the Iran nuclear deal. Then Q goes on to ask, does the agreement define and confine cease and desist pro to the Republic of Iran? Now, I'm not exactly sure what Q is referring to with pro, but if we look back, there wasn't in number 6 here, there was a mention of additional protocol safeguards agreement, and that is this over here. Okay, this is from the IAEA, and I won't read you this whole thing. I just want to point out something here in, I believe it is section 10 right here. Let me see if I can make it bigger for you. I guess I can't, sorry. In a letter dated 9 September 2010, the agency provided Syria with a detailed request for clarification concerning inconsistencies regarding the amounts and types of nuclear material involved in the preparation of the uranyl nitrate. In response, Syria sent 2 letters to the agency dated 28 October 2010. These did not clarify the issues identified in the agency's letter and the plan of action. In addition, the letters appear to have added further inconsistencies concerning the preparation of the uranyl nitrate and subsequent irradiation activities. Section 11. In a letter dated 13 September 2010, the agency provided Syria with a list of the locations to be accessed and the activities to be performed during the visit to homes. In its letter of 29 October 2010, the AECS responded that the pilot plant in homes and the activities being carried out there are not subject to Syria's safeguards agreement with the agency, and that the further aspects of the agency's request for access needed to be discussed and clarified with the agency before the AECS is able to request permission for the visit. Okay, so it's a little bit nebulous. Okay, so I don't know that they actually ever said cease and desist. It just seems like kind of this really, really strange agreement. And of course, we know they were still developing weapons there. What if Iran created a classified satellite nuclear facility in northern Syria? Well, interesting that you say that. Could that be the very booms that we heard just the other day? This is off of CNSnews.com. Mystery explosions at Iranian base in Syria register as an earthquake. Wow, that's a big boom. A photograph posted on social media purportedly shows massive explosions southeast of Hama, Syria on Saturday night. An Iranian military base and arms depot in northern Syria reportedly came under missile attack on Saturday night, triggering explosions so powerful that they registered as a 2.6 magnitude earthquake. The state news agency, Sana, reported only that the enemy projectiles had targeted military positions in the countryside of Hama and Aleppo provinces around 10:30 p.m. and that military authorities are working to identify the cause of the explosions. Posts on social media put some of the explosions at a location around 10 miles southeast of Hama in a place called Mountain 47, Jabal 47, near a village named Taxis. Video clips showed what appeared to be massive secondary explosions. At the same time, the France-based European Mediterranean Seismological Centers, citing seismological data from Turkey and Lebanon, reported a 2.6 magnitude quake at 10:40 p.m. 10 miles southeast of Hama. Okay, so we heard some booms out there. And folks, just interestingly enough, I'm going to take you to the mappy map like I always love to do. If you remember last month, I took you to this map here and we were talking about tunnels. Remember, we were talking about spider webs and tunnels, and we talked about homes. Remember, this was one of the locations of the initial explosions. And I was close. I think it was around here that I guessed, but it looked like it might have been a little bit north of that. But we had a whole bunch, and we had explosions up in Haman. We had them way down here. And remember, we found the tunnels down here towards Damascus. And if you'll see, they were reporting some booms in this article around Taxis here, and I'm referring to the article I just read. Okay, so this would have been around the area, not too far from where we discovered tunnels and where those initial bombings were going on. Okay, so it clearly seems to me that Iran did create a classified satellite. And they mentioned it in the article. They said they found it under this mountain. It was this secret thing. They already knew about it. They were going to convert it, and maybe they just never converted it. Who knows? Nobody ever checked. Okay, the Obama administration never required anybody to check. What if the program never ceased? Well, we know it. We didn't. It never ceased. It kept getting funded. It was getting funded. That's why we're there in the first place. What other bad actors are possibly involved? Well, I think we can guess, right? Okay, I think we obviously know that any bad actors as far as CIA goes, this is obviously a clown project. But who else? Who would have been in this sort of train of people that were connected? Could it be Canada? Could it be the EU? Could it be North Korea? Iran? Could it be Armenia? Pakistan? And clearly bad actors from the U.S. involved anything that was involved in the CIA. Did the U.S. know? Of course. Of course, the bad actors did. Of course they did. They're the ones who set it up. Where did those cash payments go? Well, you remember where some of those cash payments go. You remember, this was back August 3rd, 2016, an article from Front Page Mag. Obama illegally airlifted $400 million in cash in cash to Iran in unmarked plane. Obama had made a point of rejecting ransom payments to ISIS, yet paid them to Iran. The distinction is rather obvious. Both are jihadist organizations, but Obama wants ties with the latter, not the former. Let me see if I can make this a little bit more readable for you there. There we go. Funding Iran directly funds terrorism because the Iranian regime is effectively a terrorist state. Back in the Senate, Obama fought against the classification of the Revolutionary Guard, a key Iranian political military institution, as terrorists. He's remained consistent since then. Okay, so you remember this. He sent $400 million worth of cash to Iran on those wooden pallets, stacked with euros, Swiss francs, and other currencies. That's strange. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just send them American dollars? Let them, take the fee when they have to change the money. No, we send it to them in their money. Since the cash shipment, the intelligence arm of the Revolutionary Guard has arrested 2 more Iranian Americans. Tehran has also detained dual nationals from France, Canada, and the UK. Okay, so we had a lot of bad actors possibly involved, right? The US did know. Where did the cash payments go? Well, we know that the one went to Iran, right? But there was a couple others, and they went to Syria. Remember, I think there were 2 other planes. There were 2 other drops. They went to Syria. How many planes delivered? I'm not sure. I thought it was a total of 3. I could be wrong. Did all planes land in the same location? No, we just said 1 went to Iran. I think 2 went to Syria. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. All right? But they were dropping cash, and there was all this. Why would you drop cash? Why would you do that? Where did the uranium-1 material end up? Well, I would assume it ended up in Iran, Syria, North Korea, Pakistan. Is this material traceable? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. Uranium has it's called an isotope signature. All right. This means you should be able to trace it back to even the very, very plant that makes it. And of course, Q says, yes, it is traceable. Well, define cover. Well, cover is could be a lot of things. When you cover something up, a cover, as far as a cover story, is when you tell another story in order to let the underlining story pass by. What if uranium-1 material ended up in Syria? Well, you don't have to say what if. We know that happened. That's in Syria. Is that why we're bombing them right now? What would be the primary purpose? Well, I can think of a couple purposes. But the primary purpose is to develop nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons, folks. Nuclear war. To get us into a nuclear war. Also, could it be that they were trying to trace that uranium to Russia? So think of it this way. We have an outward narrative that they propagate this uranium-1 story, and it pits the Russia against the United States, world powers, right? Q goes on to say, sum of all fears. Sum of all fears. He's talking about this movie right here. Sum of all fears. During the Yom Kippur War, the Israeli Defense Force prepares to conduct a tactical nuclear strike to stave off defeat. The necessity for the strike is averted, but an Israeli copy of a Mark 12 nuclear bomb is accidentally left on an A-4 Skyhawk attack aircraft, which is subsequently shot down over Syria. The nuclear weapon is lost, buried in the field of a Druze farmer. 18 years later, an Israeli police captain, coincidentally the brother of the downed pilot, shoots and kills a Palestinian activist during a peaceful public demonstration. The United States finds itself unable to diplomatically defend Israel, yet knows it cannot withdraw its support without risk of destabilizing the Middle East. Okay. So this is pretty interesting stuff here, and I'm not going to read the whole plot, but I want to get into a little bit of this because this is going to be all kind of relevant here. Following the advice of Jack Ryan, which is a bitchin' name because it's 2 first names, the U.S. enacts a plan to accelerate the peace process by converting Jerusalem into a Vatican-like independent state to be administered by a tribunal of Jewish, Muslim, and Christian religious leaders and secured by an independent contingent of the Swiss Guards. As a nod to Israel, the U.S. Army supplies the IDF with more sophisticated equipment and agrees to construct a training base in the Negev Desert run by the U.S. Army's tank warfare specialists. To everyone's surprise, Ryan's plan seems to work. With their religious contentions appeased, the factions in the Middle East find it much easier to negotiate their disputes. Okay, but here's the big part of the plot here. These terrorists agree to detonate the weapon during the Super Bowl in Denver, planned to coincide with a false flag attack on U.S. forces in Berlin by East Germans disguised as Soviet soldiers, aiming to begin a nuclear war between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. The East Germans hope that the war will eliminate both superpowers and punish the Soviets for betraying world socialism, while the Palestinians hope the attack will destroy the Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement and end U.S. aid to Israel. Okay, so we're talking about nuclear war, folks, and we were talking about a false flag event. Okay, Uranium One, blaming Russia on this and trying to pit the U.S. against Russia. Well, in the movie, where did the material come from? Well, the material ended up coming from the USA. Let me take you a little further down here. This is off of scenario.wiki. Ryan learns from the radiation assessment team that the isotopic signature from the nuclear blast pinpoints it as having been manufactured at the Savannah River site in South Carolina in 1968, evidence which would seem to exonerate the Russians. In Syria, Clark tracks down Ghazi, one of the men who found the bomb, now dying of radiation exposure. He tells Clark that he sold the bomb to Olsen, blah, 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 who's living in Damascus. Okay, so they found it. They traced it back, and it was from the Savannah River site in South Carolina. Hey, that's Lindsey Graham's neighborhood, isn't it? Lindsey Graham, an incident. Lindsey, did you know that there was this movie, and it was called Sum of All Fears, and it's got a nuclear bomb in it, and they blow up the Super Bowl, and then they try to blame it on Russia. Did you know that the uranium came back to your state? Did you know? Lindsey Graham, did you know? He's probably singing right now. He doesn't want me to bother him. Okay. So in the movie, where did the material came from? It came from South Carolina. What country? That's the USA. What would happen if Russia or another foreign state supplied uranium to Iran and Syria, which remember is the topic of this sort of outward narrative? Well, we know what would happen. War. What would happen? What does Uranium One provide? Well, Q answers that it provides cover. Uranium One, it gives them a reason for us to go after Russia, which is what they've been wanting all along. They've wanted to provide, to kind of prove this collusion with Russia. They wanted this Uranium One to all point back to us getting into a nuclear war with Russia. And meanwhile, they were shipping all this stuff to North Korea. Who knows, Pakistan, wherever, whoever was going to be able to build a bomb. Well, why did we strike Syria? Well, we struck Syria because they supposedly had these chemical weapons, right? We were bombing tunnels and we were bombing this and that, but outwardly we were telling everybody they had chemical weapons, right? Why did we really strike Syria? Because they've got nukes to find cover. So we got two people covering, right? They've got their cover story, which is the Uranium One, the Russia versus the U.S. narrative. Keep in mind, Russia has not retaliated. Russia hasn't retaliated at all. Why did we really strike Syria? To find cover. Well, we had a cover story too, didn't we? That was the Assad gassing the people. It was just enough cover for us to strike. And like I just said, Russia never responded. Patriots in control, Q. So just to be clear, if you remember from this plot, the terrorists agreed to detonate the weapon during the Super Bowl in Denver, planned to coincide with a false flag attack on U.S. forces in Berlin by East Germans disguised as Soviet soldiers, aiming to begin a nuclear war between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Okay, so you had these East Germans here, and they were disguised as Soviet soldiers. They were trying to make a war between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, kind of like this Uranium One deal. So we could kind of plug these East Germans in for we could say the deep state or even the EU. There's a lot of people involved here, clearly. They hope that the war will eliminate both superpowers and punish the Soviets for betraying world socialism. Well, that could really happen in real life, right? Remember, we were talking about war games, and we discovered, and of course we already knew this, when you pit two nuclear powers against each other, only bad things can happen, and it's going to be basically mutually assured destruction. And that's clearly what they were hoping for in the movie, as well as possibly with this whole Uranium One deal. And remember, there were a lot of bad actors. We had to kind of follow them. Now, do me a favor And we're not going to cover all these, but I want to take you back a little bit, in particular to one post. And it's way back here. 199. Right here. Now we have this pathway. Uranium 1. Now I suppose this could be California, but I think they're talking about Canada. Uranium goes up through Canada, into the EU, through Asia, ending up in Iran, North Korea. Now, eventually that could be Pakistan. Armenia could be involved in that. There were a lot of bad actors. Okay, where did it end up? Well, it looks like Iran, North Korea, those were the places that were that have sparked the most attention. What was the purpose? Nuclear war. Nuclear war. Didn't matter if it was Russia. I think Russia would have been the ultimate choice, but it really didn't matter. Whoever could make a bomb. Who was supposed to win the election of 2016? Well, we know that. Hillary was supposed to win that. Why was the Iran deal kept from Congress and placed at the highest level of classification? Because they never thought she was going to lose. If she won, they were never going to have to worry about it anyway. Meaning a United States senator could not review the deal, but other foreign powers could. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, does it? How much money was hand-delivered by planes? Billions. 400 million just on the one plane. It turned out to be 1.7 billion, and that was all installments. Remember? Why in cash? They could go directly to the countries. Remember, they were in Swiss francs. They were in euros. They were all this different kind of money. Why in cash? Because it would be untraceable. You would never be able to find it. You'd never be able to log it. Where do the planes actually land? Well, we discussed that. Okay? Iran, probably Syria. What was the cover? Well, the cover was this hostage situation back in the day. You remember Barack Obama? We were gonna get some hostages back, and we were basically paying a ransom. That was sort of and even though he said it wasn't a ransom, it was just weird. You guys remember this? Who paid for Barack Obama to attend Harvard? Well, if you've watched my video from I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago, we know that the Saudi prince funded Barack Obama to attend Harvard. And back then, I believe this was Barack Obama. Okay, it is now referred to as different things, but. Anyway, also he funded Huma Abedin to attend Harvard. Why would this occur pre-political days? Because they needed to get the ideals into Harvard. Remember, that was a big part. This same prince was also funding all these programs, these educational programs, and it basically was having to do with the curriculum at Harvard. Why would this occur? Well, because they wanted to get it in before it even looked like it could be suspicious. Who was the biggest contributor to the Clinton Foundation? Same prince. The graphic is the key. Even back then, you can see that Q wants us to make graphics. All right, so you see what's going on. But at the end of the day, Q responds to, or Q finishes this post up with the sum of all fears. Okay, so this is clearly the track in which it all ran. Now let's take you back to the next post. 38 minutes after the hour of 12 p.m., post 1307, knowing what you know now. Regarding Israel disclosure moments ago, and many of you probably already know about this. This is off of Fox News right here. And it says Netanyahu says Iran brazenly lying after signing nuclear deal. Moved documents to a secret location. I'm only going to play you just like the first little bit of this. But listen to the first minute. You should listen to the whole thing. It's quite interesting. Okay? But many of you have probably already seen it. And I'm just going to play you this first minute.
You can listen to Iran's Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei.
I stress that the Islamic Republic has never been after nuclear weapons.
You can listen to Iran's President, Hassan Rouhani.
Nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction have no place in Iran's security and defense doctrine and contradict our fundamental religious and ethical convictions.
This is repeated by Iran's Foreign Minister, Javad Zarif.
We didn't have any program to develop nuclear weapons. Anyway, we consider nuclear weapons both irrational as well as immoral.
Well, tonight I'm here to tell you one thing. Iran lied.
Okay, well, that's all I'm going to play for now. Sorry about the little bit of lag there, but you get the point, right? Okay, so that's what Israel disclosed, all right, that they lied, and he had all this proof, and he had, these CDs, and he had all these books and everything like that. He makes a grand presentation. Go watch the video. I'll leave the link for you. Why is Secretary of State there? Yeah, how interesting, isn't that? We talked yesterday. Mike Pompeo went to Saudi Arabia, okay, and then he went to, where else did he go? He went to Israel, and then he finished up in Jordan. Why is Secretary of State there? What are they talking about? they talking about some plans? Are they talking about this eager Lion 18? Why is the EU, others pressing to remain in the deal? Because we just talked about that. They were the deal. They were the ones getting the money for the deal. They were the ones facilitating this deal. And they were the ones that would stand to profit if nuclear war actually did occur. Because who would become the most powerful if you did not have the US and the Russia in the picture? Okay? Now, at one point, the U.S. was bought into this deep state, but now since President Trump, we don't have that anymore. And we've never had that with Russia, right? Well, the EU doesn't like that, do they? They don't like that very much, so they stand to gain. Think logically. France and Germany came to the White House for the sole purpose of pressing POTUS to remain in the deal. Yeah, of course they do, because France and Germany have one particular thing in common that they deal with Iran. Let me take you over here. This is Fortune.com. Iran's nuclear deal. European companies racing to get back to business. This is back in April of 2015. Big business most likely played a major role in clinching Thursday's historic nuclear framework agreement with Iran. Heavy lobbying by thirsty European companies hoping to re-enter the Iranian marketplace may have even forced the United States to give in on some key issues in the negotiations. While the particulars of the framework still need to be ironed out before the sanctions against Iran are officially lifted, European companies are already taking the first steps to reconnect with Tehran. Okay, let me move you down just a little bit here. Over the last few months, European courts have started to chip away at the foundations of the sanctions regimes there, saying that they are unlawful. In September, an EU High Court ruled that sanctions should be lifted against a number of major Iranian banks. Okay, remember we were seeing all these, if you watched my video from last week, we were seeing all these transactions from the EU going through Iranian banks, and they were stripping the information off them so we couldn't figure out where the transactions were going from. The judge said that the EU had failed to prove that the banks in question, which are state-controlled, were complicit in helping Iran attain a nuclear weapon, and those organizations should therefore be released from sanctions. Let me take you down a little further. In any case, Europe is champing at the bit. I think it's chomping at the bit to get into Iran, and they are not waiting for the sanctions to be lifted to get the ball rolling. Germany, France, and UK have teamed up to form the European-Iranian Business Alliance in an effort to facilitate commerce between the EU and Iran. Germany seems to be leading the way. Already, 100 German companies have branches in Iran, with 1,000 businesses operating through sales agents, according to the German-Iranian Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Germany was Iran's largest trading partner in the EU before the sanctions ruined the party. In 2010, Germany exported around 3.8 billion euros worth of goods and services to Iran. By 2013, that number was cut in half due to the sanctions. Well, that's not fun. But Germany is optimistic about its future with Iran. The German-Iranian Chamber believes that German exports will rebound to 10 billion euros annually once the sanctions are officially lifted. Big industrial companies like Siemens, which make everything from rail cars to medical equipment. Remember? Medical equipment. Interesting. Will lead the way, along with auto manufacturers like Volkswagen and Daimler-Benz. Other big German companies reportedly looking for their piece of the Iranian pie include Bayer, the pharmaceutical giant, and E.ON, the power company. Wow, the Germans aren't the only ones looking to get back into Iran. The French have been seen lingering around trade shows and buying dinner for Iranian officials for months, according to people on the ground in Tehran. Members of the Franco-Iranian Chamber of Commerce include virtually all the big industrial French firms such as Alstom, CGG, Faurecia, Legrand, Renault, Schneider, and SMF Florger. Peugeot just inked a deal to start making cars in the country, joining French rival Renault, which has been making cars in Iran for a while. Okay, but the real prize for European companies is, of course, Iran's oil sector. Years of mismanagement and sanctions have wreaked havoc on the country's once robust energy complex. Iran possesses 10% of the world's oil supply, not old supply, yet it only pumps a measly 2.8 million barrels a day, which is around 3% of global oil demand. After the sanctions are lifted, Iran hopes to boost production by at least 1 million barrels a day to between 3.6 to 4.0 million daily. If it had European help, Iran could boost production even higher. Okay, so that would be their sole purpose, right? They've got particular purposes for pressing POTUS to remain in the deal, which he's not going to do. Now, this 5% shared, I'm not really sure. But if you go to where we just read, I'm wondering if what this means is that they were kind of shooting. Remember, they're doing 1 million barrels a day to between 3.6 to 4.0 million daily. So maybe they were hoping to get 5%. I don't necessarily know what the 5% shared is. And it could be regarding Israel's disclosure too, that maybe they only shared 5%. But I have a feeling that it may have to do with the energy desire from France and Germany with Iran. Okay, POTUS declassifies Syria and Iran plus uranium connection. Yeah, that's no fun. That spoils the party, doesn't it? Where does the EU fit in? Well, I think we talked about all that, didn't we? We know exactly where they fit in now. So, is it possible that the EU are our East Germans with the sum of all fears role, right? Setting up this world war. Folks, they were going to nuke us. They were going to, one way or another, they were looking, just all they needed to do was find a country that they could prop up long enough to enrich this uranium and get it done. Didn't matter if it was North Korea, didn't matter if it was Iran, didn't matter if it was Pakistan, didn't matter. And we can watch the money go over the years to whoever would develop that. Absolutely sick. Those are your Q posts. I hope that helps a little bit. There's actually a lot I'm leaving out. There were a lot of things that I would really wanted to mention, but I think that's good for now. I hope that kind of clears it up for you. As always, if there are new Q posts, I will keep you on top of that. And I think that's it for now. Until next time, this is Sir Patrick Mack with In Pursuit of Truth. If you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out. I know many of you already know the deal, but if you're new to this, you probably will get clicked unsubscribed after, every once in a while, as well as if you click the notification bell. Sometimes YouTube will unclick you. That's just part of their fun little game that they're playing with us. All right, enjoy your day or your evening, depending where you are from. So this is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay safe, stay sane,